Welcome. I'm Ken Taylor.
And I'm John Perry. Coming up right after the news, it's Philosophy Talk. What's the topic this week, Ken?
The philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, especially his views about the origins of morality, John.
Ah, that explains the music. Nietzsche on morality. Didn't Nietzsche think that morality was something of a confidence game, where kind of naturally weak people like you entrap natural aristocrats like myself into being nice to them, otherwise we'll feel guilty?
Something like that, John. He did think it was important that the strong not be taken in by the morality of the weak. That's true.
Now, you don't really believe that stuff about morality being only for the weak, do you, Ken?
I don't know, but what if I said I did, John?
Well, I'd be very careful when I was around you.
Oh, John, stay with us as we examine Nietzsche's provocative views about the source of morality. First, the news. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything
except your intelligence. I'm John Perry.
And I'm Ken Taylor.
We're coming to you from the wonderful studios of KALW Information Radio in San Francisco. But we like to imagine ourselves sitting on the grass or at Philosopher's Corner, a shady oasis on the campus of Stanford University. There's plenty of room, so sit right down and join us.
Today, we'll be examining some of the views of the 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, especially his views about the origin of morality.
Well, Friedrich Nietzsche was born just about 100 years before I was born. He was born in 1844, and he was young enough to be influenced by Darwin, and by the time he died, he stopped writing long before he died because he had a mental illness. He had produced works that have been extraordinarily influential, on the 20th century.
Supposedly, he influenced the Nazis.
Well, that's often said, but that's probably a misreading of Nietzsche. At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, me too. So why don't we get to the correct reading of Nietzsche? Let's think about Nietzsche's views about the nature of morality a little bit.
Well, why not? You're more of a scholar than I am. What are the kind of views about the origins of morality that philosophers have held? Where do we fit Nietzsche into this group?
Well, there's the one I learned at my mother's knee and in Sunday school, that God dictates the laws of morality, sort of the divine commandment theory of morality.
Your mother had talking knees, Ken?
Yeah, well, she talked a lot.
That's pretty impressive. The divine command, I don't think that was Nietzsche. Nietzsche's famous for saying God is dead. And now I suppose God could have first issued his divine commands and then died, but that doesn't sound like the Nietzsche I read.
No, that's not the Nietzsche you read. There's also there's sort of the divine command made eminent. That's kind of Kant's view. The commandments
eminent,
like
famous or something?
No, not instead of transcendent.
I see.
The commandments of morality are the commandments of reason. They come from our own rationality.
This is your man Kant.
Yeah, that's my man Kant.
And I bet he ends up finding the Ten Commandments right there in reason, huh?
Yeah. That's not a Nietzschean view either, obviously.
Well, how about what's the next view?
Yeah, there's your man Hume, who's a kind of
Whom?
Hume. You know, David Hume, that British philosopher, who's kind of a naturalist about morality.
Okay,
somehow rooted in human nature. David
Hume, 18th century philosopher. We have this natural sympathy that's just part of nature, and morality is built on that.
Yeah.
Nietzsche was a Darwinian, and he was definitely not a supernaturalist, so maybe he was a naturalist.
Yeah, it could be. I learned in graduate school, I have to say, that Nietzsche was actually a moral skeptic, that he didn't really believe there were moral facts. I remember taking this course at the University of Chicago, but that might not be right. But in a little bit, Brian Leiter will join us, and he'll straighten us all out.
Before we get the expert opinion on Nietzsche, we're going to learn a little about the New Jersey opinion on Nietzsche. Yeah. I think part of it is expert and part of it is not so expert. Our roving philosophical reporter didn't have to go to New Jersey. She just got on the phone and called Princeton and turned on her TV and tuned in to an episode of The Sopranos.
What did you just say? Death just shows the ultimate absurdity of life.
What is this? Are you trying to get me to lose my temper because I'm about to put you through that goddamn window?
See? That's what I mean. Life is absurd.
Don't say that. God forgive you.
There is no God.
Hey!
In the second season of The Sopranos, AJ Soprano, an awkward, sullen teenager, discovers existential philosophy, and he tells his parents that he won't be getting confirmed in the Catholic Church, or any church, anytime soon.
Now, what's going on with you?
Nothing.
You know that no God shit? That upset your mother very much.
It's not no God. It's just God is dead.
Who said that?
Nietzsche. He's a 19th century philosopher from Germany. Anyway, that's why I'm not getting confirmed.
Enough with that shit, all right? Your confirmation's coming up this weekend, and you are getting confirmed.
There is a sense in which Nietzsche voices a complaint that you are more likely to hear from adolescents than from mature grown-ups.
Alexander Nehamas is a professor of the humanities at Princeton University. He once called Nietzsche, or Nietzsche, as A.J. Soprano calls him, a philosopher of adolescence.
The traditional adolescent complaint that, I am not like you, let me be who I am. And to some extent, I think Nietzsche is voicing that kind of complaint about contemporary culture and contemporary civilization. He believes that morality, in particular Christian morality, of which he is a great enemy, is designed precisely to make everyone act the same way as everyone else. He believes that a few people, at least, not only do not need these rules, the rules of Christian morality, but that living by those rules deprives them of their most valuable aspect, of their individuality, of their creativity, if you want.
The Nietzschean hero, or Superman, is constantly recreating himself, questioning everything, being an artist of life. Back to The Sopranos.
You're up next.
Nah, I just want to watch.
Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to.
Why?
Because your parents say so, and it's part of your tradition.
That's not what Nietzsche says.
Oh?
Nietzsche.
You might not describe A.J. Soprano as an artist of life, but he's got a touch of the Superman to him. He's breaking the rules, refusing convention. Still, he's got an attitude problem. Nietzsche did believe that life is ultimately absurd, but for him, that was cause for celebration, for art, creativity, not sullen teenagerly angst. Again, Alexander Nehamas.
No rule by which we live, none, and he is very clear about that. No moral rule, no religious rule, no social rule, no legal rule is unbreakable. Who you are is not necessarily what you have been made to be by your society, your family, your parents, your religion, your schooling, your social class. It can always be something else.
For Philosophy Talk, this is Amy Standen.
Thanks, Amy. Hey, Ken, if The Sopranos can have an HBO series and talk about Nietzsche, couldn't we have an HBO program? Maybe the Philosophers? I could be the star and you could be featured.
Yeah, but John, you have the looks for radio, so I don't know.
Well, yeah,
anyway,
that's true, yeah.
Joining us to talk about Nietzsche is Brian Leiter. Professor Leiter teaches at the University of Texas at Austin, where he holds the Joseph D. Jamail Centennial Chair in Law. He is also, by the way, a professor of philosophy. He has written widely on both jurisprudence and on Nietzsche, including the book Nietzsche on Morality, published by Routledge in 2002. He joins us from the studios of KUT in Austin. Welcome to Philosophy Talk, Brian.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Brian. John Perry here.
Hi, John. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good, but I'm a little confused about your man Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche was dismissive of what he called the herd morality, and he seemed to think most of us belong to that. He sounds to me like a little bit of a moral skeptic, and my friends in literature put him right up there with Foucault in kind of deconstructing everything that we ordinarily believe in. But I know in your book, you defend the idea that Nietzsche was really a naturalist. So tell us about Nietzsche and your take on Nietzsche on morality.
Sure. Well, naturalism, of course, is a term that means a lot of different things in philosophy, as both you and Ken know. But why don't we start with Hume, whom you mentioned in your introductory remarks. Hume has this idea, which I think he shares with Nietzsche, that a lot of what we ordinarily believe can't be rationally explained or rationally justified, and therefore we have to find some other way to explain why do we believe these things. Why do we believe in the morality we believe in if it has no rational foundation? Why do we believe in causation if there's no rational foundation for our beliefs in causation? So both Hume and Nietzsche, I think, are responding to this same problem, but Hume comes at it from a slightly different perspective than Nietzsche, it's fair to say. Hume assumes that we have certain natural dispositions that lead us to believe the conventional moral beliefs that we're all familiar with, these natural dispositions of sympathy, as it were.
Yeah.
Nietzsche, on the other hand, has a psychological story about why we accept the morality we accept, and that psychological story tends to undermine or debunk the status of our moral commitments and our moral beliefs.
So, Brian, to see if this is right, we could say they're both naturalists in the sense that they think if there's anything to morality, whatever there is to morality, it's got to be found in nature. No supernatural deliverance from God or some mysterious reason. It's got to be found right there in nature. It's just that they find different things. And Hume's is a little bit more fitting with the traditional morality, and Nietzsche's is a little bit more of a story about why we believe it without necessarily making it true.